comes up to share.
Thanks, Russ. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure and it's a privilege really to address you this morning. My first time obviously being this side of South Africa, but God has really blessed me to meet a wonderful pastor, wonderful host, wonderful hospitality. So I'm really, really blessed to be here. So my message today is about a subject matter that's based on my book called Freed by God, but Imprisoned by Culture, which is all of us here. We're all freed by God, right? Okay, so that part we know. At least let's be clear on that. We're all freed by God. I'm going to talk about that part where we are imprisoned by culture. And how is that possible? So it's based on a book that I published in 2015, which is the same title, Freed by God or Imprisoned by Culture. So I want to start by looking at a scripture we're all familiar with in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, which speaks about the creation of Adam and Eve, the first human beings. I start there because whenever people would say to us, let's go back to where we come from, or when they hanker for the past or the history or their roots, I always ask, how far back do we go? Let's go back to where we come from. So back do we go? Back, but sometimes people want to go back and stop somewhere. So for me, I would like to go back all the way to Adam and Eve to trace human existence from our common ancestors and see if we are created by God to follow certain practices and beliefs. And from what we read, when he said, let's make man in our image, there are a couple of things we see there. One of them is that it never said, let's make a black man, a white man. He just said, let's make man in our image and likeness. So there was no descriptor, there was no prefix to describe what the man was. He said, let's make man our image and our likeness. So we see that the product which God creates is described as human, and other humans then qualify that product as a black or a white person. Why that? Because when they give you the demographic box, that's how they control you. So the box that you're put in is a box to control you, because then if you accept the label, you accept what comes with the label. So culture is formed on you accepting the label, then the label determines how kind. For instance, I would then be accused of not being black enough. Yeah, because of certain things I do and certain things I don't do. And so I don't know if you know anything about what's black about me. Anybody can help me? I've been trying to find out. I've struggled to get it. So I'm like, what exactly is black about me? This microphone is black and I don't look like this. If I did, I would have to smile all throughout the night when I'm walking, otherwise no one will see me, right? So, and incidentally, I've never met a white person. I've traveled many places, I've never met a white person. This table is white. I haven't met a white person. So I get to think that these labels are greater and much deeper than what we actually get to believe or what to see. So when he says, let's make man our image, he says, let him have dominion over three spheres, the biosphere, where the creeping things are, the atmosphere, where the birds are, and the hydrosphere, where the fishes are. And then so that's what God does in the beginning, before we come along. But then things go bad, right? So there's a sin comes into the world. Adam and Eve fall into sin. I think we know the story. They eat of this tree. Now, some people have this tree with a red apple sparkling. I don't know where they get that from. Well, the Bible, in my view, has never mentioned what kind of fruit it is. But every time you see pictures of the fruit, you see a snake and a red apple. I'm like, who was there? How do they know? All the time they depict this picture of this fruit is a red sparkling apple. And so Adam and Eve eventually eat of this fruit, and the world, which was perfect, not defined by color, race, ethnicity, perfect world, breaks out and everything falls. So there's a world that exists prior to sin and a world that exists after that. Those are two different worlds. So cultures, identity, racial polarization, racial division are a product of a fallenness. They're not there in the original creation, the original template. It's very important to understand that. So in the beginning, there was no such a thing as a person who's white or black or whatever. There was no one who was defining themselves on the basis of their skin color. They're all defined on the basis of their relationship with God. That's why you notice that the first thing that happened when Adam and Eve got when God spoke to them, Adam, where are you? And they said, we hid from you because we saw that we're naked. Next question was, who told you you are naked? In other words, God is checking out who is the source of your information. God doesn't confirm or deny the supposed nakedness. He's checking the source of the information. Who told you are naked? In other words, you were naked before, it didn't bother you. Why does it bother you now? So sin creates self-consciousness, which makes us less God-conscious, which means that we begin to define ourselves on the basis of how we see ourselves rather than how he sees us. So who told you are naked? God could ask the same question to all of us. Who told you are black? Who told you are white? Creature, not creator. A product is supposed to be defined by its maker, not by its discoverer. So he who makes a product defines what it's making. So God calls us this, people call us that. And in Hebrew language, in Hebrew thought, the one who names a product has authority over what it names. So naming is powerful and it's very important, right? So that's just the idea of what happened in the creation. And then Jesus addresses, Paul in Colossians 2 verse 8. The letter of Colossians is interesting. I love it because it's a church that Paul has established and is growing. But then it's something is affecting the church. It's called agnosticism. They believe that you can worship God with your spirit, but your body doesn't have to submit to God. So they believe in some kind of dualism. As long as I commit myself spiritually, I don't have to submit my body to God. So Paul writes in this letter to demystify this idea of dualism, that everything about you belongs to God. In fact, he talks about Jesus, that the whole Godhead dwelt in him bodily. That all things were made by him, and without him nothing has been made that has been made, right? So he talks about the unity of the person, totality, submitted to God. In fact, the whole point of the letter is to talk about the sufficiency and the supremacy of Christ. That in all things, in him we have sufficiency, that we are fine with him. Then he gives a warning, though, in Colossians 2 verse 8, that don't let anyone take you captive, capture you, imprison you. Now, he uses a metaphor where in those days, a conquering nation will parade the conquered nation over its streets as prisoners of war, but with fetters and iron chains. He uses the same metaphor, but he says this time, don't let anyone capture you with vain images. Now, the capturing, imprisonment is now by ideas, not by chains, but by ideologies and beliefs. So the same thing that happens with people physically captured can happen to you ideologically, through somebody capturing you with their thinking, and you become their prisoner of war. So as that, I define culture as you and I being governed by dead people. Culture as you and I being ruled by dead people. So those who start the culture rule over those who follow it. So all of us, therefore, are governed from the grave. We are ruled from the grave. You don't start the culture, you only follow it. Culture is started by a few, but followed by many. Culture is behavioral, not biologic. There's no culture in your genes. It's generational, not genetic. Your body doesn't have culture. Your body doesn't say, hi, I'm Xhosa, I'm Zulu. Your body doesn't know that. You're the one who's crazy here. Your body doesn't know that. Your body doesn't even care what you believe. Your body just needs RDA, recommended daily allowance, nutrients. Right? Your body just wants food. It just wants to be fed proper nutritional food. Otherwise, without that, there's consequence. Your body doesn't know anything about religion or beliefs or anything. It just knows that it needs to be given its proper nutritional value, stuff, and all that for it to grow and be healthy. It doesn't have a belief system. It's simply a physical organ. It's a scientific organ. So you are the one who's have a belief here. Yeah. And you believe that if I don't do something I believe, my body will be affected. No. If you don't feed your body its physical necessities, then it will be affected. There's nothing to do with belief. So if you don't believe in vitamin D, well, the body will tell you. It will show you flames that you need vitamin D. If you had, in my culture, we don't believe in vitamin B12. Well, we will see. If your body cares about your culture, your body will show you should have had vitamin B12. You should have had calcium. That's why your bones are brittle, and now you're struggling. Your body doesn't care about that. So therefore, we sometimes make more of culture than we should. So now, how are we imprisoned? And all of us, by the way, as I said, we are struggling with this. Jesus encounters his own people, the people of supposedly religious leaders. He chides them for this. He says to them, you are expert at setting aside and nullifying the commandment of God in order to keep your own man-made tradition and regulations. So you can become such an expert in nullifying, discounting, canceling out the effect of God's word in order to prioritize your culture. I mean, that churches I go to, which people don't worship at the same service, same building, same denomination. I mean, it's strange. They have the same denomination, but the meeting that they're building at different times because they can't, because of cultural difference, worship at the same time. Have you been to churches where I know that the English service or the other service starts at 9 and the other service starts at 11 because they just cannot be together in the same service, only because of culture difference. So the whole point of Psalms 133, how blessed it is for brethren to dwell together, there the Lord commands a blessing. It doesn't work there because of one thing, culture difference. We don't sing that way. I don't feel God that way. I've got to have my way. I don't feel God that way. So we get stuck in these dynamics to such a point where the gospel becomes ineffective. Now, there's one thing I want to address you to drill this deeper. If you give me the slide about the culture iceberg. Now, here's an important factor that I think would sort of help you to understand deeper how to navigate this thing called culture. How many of you have watched the Titanic? Almost all of us, ne? So it's like a long movie. So they make this ship in Southampton in the UK, beautiful, and it goes on a maiden voyage to New York, and they say the ship is unsinkable. Even God, and I don't know why people, you can do your own thing. Why involve God in it? Like John Lennon, the Beatles, the most famous people and more famous than Jesus. I'm like, why? Why have to go there? Anyway, so they make this ship, it's unsinkable, and then it sank. Because it hit what? An iceberg. What is an iceberg? Iceberg is a block of ice that is sitting on the ocean, but only a small part of it is protruding above the water. The rest of the iceberg is submerged, so you don't see how big the iceberg is. So you can take it for granted. So they drive, they go and hit the iceberg, and the whole thing sink, and over 1,000 people lose their lives. So the iceberg, as I said, only a small part of it is protruding above the water. The bigger part is submerged. So culture is also seen to be like that. Culture is seen to be only 5 to 10% of culture is visible, is observable. The rest of the culture is submerged, is invisible. So what we see of culture, what is observable, is the what a person does. The why is all hidden. So the majority of people know what they must do, the what. They don't know why they must do it. And that's the bigger part of culture. The fact that you must or you do certain things is what we can see. What we don't understand is why you must do it. Recently, in fact, as recently as Thursday, just this Thursday, I'm talking to a waiter in one restaurant who's telling me that she must take her son to a circumcision school. That's what we're doing at Xhosa Land in the Eastern Cape to become men. We go and snip and we go to the circumcision school on the bush and we do the ceremony. So she tells me she must take her son to this school this year. He's a waiter. Listen to this. The budget is 35,000. Her budget. That she must spend. I said, on what? Mostly alcohol. So I'm saying, so you're just going to feed everybody alcohol? Like you just people are just going to come and just drink for free. She says, yes, I have to. I must buy 25 cases of beer, so many wine, so much brandy. To people that she doesn't know, all strangers. Because that's what they told her she must do. So I'm sitting with her. I don't really engage. I don't want to go. I'm listening. I'm just listening and that. So that's now the what of it, right? That's the what of it. I'm interested in the why of it. Now, I don't go with her there. I just leave her. I thought, next, I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the why. Why must somebody buy alcohol for people you don't know and they must come and drink for free? The why part I'm interested in. But they don't ask the question of why. The issue is the what. So she feels obligated to do this thing, but she doesn't know why she must do it. I mean, for instance, here you have an ocean right here, right? You're in Durban, right? The ocean doesn't disappear for the rest of the year, right? It's there. It doesn't only show up on the 1st of January, right? It's always there the whole year. As far as I'm aware, it's here the whole year. So the people who won't visit the sea for the whole year. Well, the sea is there. But 1st of January, they must. It's a must. Right? Everybody comes out. It's like ants. Everybody comes out. So me, being curious, so I ask guys in my church and everywhere I do workshops, I do ask people, okay, so as I said, why? And everybody just scratches their heads, they're like, it's like nobody's ever asked it. I said, like, why? The ocean, I'm in PE, the ocean is there like the whole year. Why do you want to go in the 1st? They go like, it's almost like, who are you? Why do you ask? Nobody asks. We all been doing it. I said, why? Of course, I know the why, but just provoking the person to ask. It's all superstition, by the way, is to wash the bad luck of the previous year and to get luck for the new year. It's all superstition. So then I asked a group of guys who were in one company, they've been doing it for 20 years. So you guys have been doing it for 20 years? Yes, sir. So you've been going there for 20 years? Yes, sir. And I said, so how is luck now? They go like, I'm like, how's life? They're like, nothing has changed. So I'm like, so why don't you stop? Eh? Why don't you stop? I mean, it doesn't work, obvious. Why don't you stop? And the one goes like nobody's ever asked them to stop. They're like, it makes no sense. I said, me? You see, 1st of January, there's an ocean. I go as far from the ocean as possible. I go inland. Because I don't have that belief system. And by the way, if everybody comes to watch their bad luck on the 1st of January, on that water, what are the chances you will come out there with good luck? What are the chances? Me think there's no chance. You're not getting any good luck there for sure. And they know it doesn't work. But nobody is asked. One day we were in a funeral and this guy had committed suicide, and so they only discovered his body 3 days later, so it had already been decomposed. So the body was not at the house. So normally we have a service in the house with the body, then we move to the cemetery. It's a whole, like we do a long thing. It's like, why people, you guys are stingy. I mean, you do short funerals, you do chapels, you have RSVP, everything of yours is small, you're always budgeting, you're always counting every cent, like you're very stingy. And your services are short, you're not generous. One person speaks. Now we all must speak. Zola was a wonderful person. A person is standing up and says, I won't be long. That's the one who will be long. That one, you must watch it. I won't be long. Oh, we're sitting here the whole day. And they will sing their own song and they eulogize the whole person all day. So we're in this house, and then if the body's not there, it's going straight from the morgue straight to the cemetery. But the priests, there's this thing in traditional churches where they lead the coffin and they speak. John 14 verse 6, which Jesus never spoke leading a coffin. He was talking to people who are alive. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm like, okay, anyway. So they do that without a coffin now being there, because religion is so strong. There's no coffin, but they still do their slow procession. We must all follow slowly. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Fine, that's one thing. And then 2 groups of people are coming from the township where this man is from, who are not going to the cemetery because of their time constraint. From the house, they're going straight back to the township where the man comes from. So they go into taxis. 2 taxis have come to fetch them. They stand in front of the house. Inside the taxis, they come in, and they're about to go, but the one man gets them out of the taxi quickly to go back to the house. I'm watching this transaction. And they go back to the house because they forgot to wash their hands in the bucket of water that is standing in front of the house. So when I've heard of this bucket, I've seen this bucket, I've watched this thing of this bucket. People always try and tell me that because we have been burying people, we've used the shovels to close the coffin or the thing, so now no one has been to the cemetery. They come really quickly and they wash. And I asked this man, as they do this, as he passes me, I said, Puti, why do you do that? He scratches at his head. He looks at me and says, yeah, Namandeas. I don't know. Literally, I got stunned to see a man who leads a whole group of 2 taxis to do something he himself doesn't know. how powerful his leadership skills are. For the blind to lead the blind. And they're both, boom, into the ditch. He doesn't know why. But he's influenced two groups of people, two taxis full of people, to go and wash their hands, and no one knows why. Also a superstition, by the way. Nothing about hygiene. It's about washing the bad luck of death and making sure that death doesn't come into your house after the cemetery. Nothing to do with hygiene. If they tell about hygiene, they're just lying to you. Hygiene, any tap you can use. Hygiene, you can use sanitizer in the car. Hygiene could be anything else, not one baguette with 100 people standing before it. There's no hygiene there, that's for sure. Now, why is this important? If Christians, if believers, Christ followers, don't ask questions, they simply do things, and they don't ask questions. If we have to be bound by situations where there's no marriages taking place in our congregations, because we can't afford exorbitant amounts that are being demanded in the name of Lobol, and we don't question these things, what is God's thinking about us and his institution of marriage and our value of what he values? If we're going to have young people, and there are many of them in my congregation who can't get married, but they do fat and set, and they fornicate, they sin, because apparently it's okay to sin against God, not okay to sin against men. It's okay to rebel against God, not okay to rebel against humans who are made in God's image. We don't question why. So in my congregation, I challenge people to question why and to rebel if they have to in order to please God. Jesus says, I haven't come to bring peace, I've come to bring a sword. I've come to bring division. So I unfortunately did pay Lebola, and I regret it. It was a lot of money. I signed a check, it was the days of checks. I signed a check, and I was hoping it wouldn't be cashed. Unfortunately, it was cashed. So I got one of those SMSs which I don't like. I like the SMSs where something is coming into the account, not coming out. So I paid. And I was supposedly paying to prove my ability to take care of my wife, which is not true. It was transactional. Money went this way, wife went this way. He said to me, it's not a transaction, it is. It's not a gift. I didn't give a gift, I paid. I paid for my wife. And I sit at home after 19 years, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, how does it actually improve our lives? What difference has it made? We don't love each other more. I'm not more responsible. It has nothing to do, nothing has helped. It hasn't added any value into our lives. It has just created some awkward situation. Or, God forbid, ferment ideas of gender hierarchy and entitlement of women's bodies because I paid for you, which is likely to lead to high levels of GBV. Right. So, can I tell you, there's no way of addressing gender-based violence in Africa without addressing the elephant in the room called patriarchy and culture. We are going to have all the police, all the seminars, all the conferences, all the talking shops. If we don't address the elephant in the room, which is our view of women, it's not going to address the main, we're not going to deal with this elephant, this issue called JBV. Because it's built around a certain understanding of gender hierarchy, which is entrenched in culture. Every culture, by the way, in the world has a view of women that is negative. Only the gospel liberates women. Only Christ mentions women in his lineage. No other king mentions women in his lineage. Only the Bible emancipates women and brings gender equality. So as we close, I want to challenge you to really think through around whatever you do. Not everything about culture is wrong, by the way. I'm sure you're aware of that. But just the question of why do you do it? Not that you shouldn't do it. No one is cultureless. No one can be culture neutral. No one can be without culture. We all are cultured from birth to death. So it means culture is part of life. It's not necessarily wrong to have culture. It's just wrong for culture to have you. That is to control you. You can possess culture. Culture shouldn't possess you. In other words, if you can't have something, you can't do something as part of your culture, you should be able to live. You shouldn't have the end of the world like, I didn't have my coffee this morning. It's the end of the world. It's Armageddon. You know what I mean? Because there are people like that I know. If they didn't have their cup of coffee, it's the end of the world. I'm like, no, they've messed up with your taste buds. You must just be delivered. There's life after coffee. There's life prior to coffee. There's life after coffee. So get over it, you know. So I'm in that space where, coffee is everywhere. Here, obviously, you know. I mean, I don't have to convince you. It's the first thing you encounter when you come to Olive Tree. I would have thought it's a coffee shop. Me, I wouldn't have thought it's a church. If I were passing along the road, I would have thought I'm coming to a coffee shop. Oh, it's a church. But coffee welcomes you. Right. So it's a good culture. It's a good culture. So long as if the machines were not working, please do come to church. Please, please. Don't say, no, I'm not coming now. They've messed up. There's no more coffee there. It was not a coffee shop. It was a church with coffee. Just get it right. It's a church with coffee. It's not a coffee shop. It's like people following Jesus because he's giving them fish and it's a fish and now they think it's a fish and chips shop. Now they can't get the fish and the loaves. Now they can't follow him. He says, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part in me. Now I was challenging them to go beyond following him for what he does, to follow him for who he is. Amen? Thank you. That's it.